Welcome to CCC Book Club, everyone. Today we are reading The Third Eye. And let me share my screen. So if everyone can see my screen, please give a thumbs up or thank you, Hazel. So a short recap of what happened is like now they are still learning in Tibet, and he's now just after he's just done his exams, and his only thing he can play with is judo, and like another word for judo is karate or something that now usage. So let's start. So I think we left off at 116. Monks brought in writing material and the first set of questions. We also brought buttered tea and snow. Okay, we finished that. Next morning, the 16 of us had to go to the room where they taught judo. The time we were going to examine on our knowledge for strangleholds, locks, breakfalls, throws, and self-control. Each of us had to engage with 3 other candidates. The failures were soon weeded out. Eventually, the others were eliminated, and at last, due my solely to my early training at the hands of Zoo, are the only one left. At least I had passed top in judo, but only because of my early training, which at the time I thought routine and unfair. The next day we were given the next day to recover from hard days of examination, and on the day following we were informed of a result. I and 4 had passed. We'd now become trappas or medical priests. The Lama Minga dawned up, whom I had not seen during the whole time of the examinations, sent for me to go to his room. As I entered, he beamed upon me. You have done well, Lobsang. You are at the top of my list. The Lord Albert has sent you a special report to the inmost one. He wanted to suggest that you be made a Lama right away, but I have opposed it. He saw my rather pained look and explained, it is much better to study and pass on your own merits. To be given the status is to miss much training. Training will find vital in later life. However, you can move into the room next to mine, because you will pass the examination when the time comes. That seemed fair enough to me. I was willing to do whatever my guide thought best. It gave me a thrill to realize success was his success, and he would get the credit for training me to pass the highest in all subjects. Later in the week, a gasping message, tongue protruding and almost at the point of death, apparently, arrived with a message from the inmost one. Messengers always use their hysterical talents to impress upon one the speed which they have traveled and hardships that they have endured. The message entrusted to them. As the Patala was only a mile or so away, I thought his act was rather overdone. The masses, luckily, Lobsang is getting like highs in all subjects. So that's the examinations they're doing now. The inmost one congratulated congratulated me on my pass and said that I was to be regarded as a llama from that day. I was to wear llama robes and have all the right and privileges of the status. He agreed with my guide that I should take the examinations when I was 16 years of age, as in this way you will be induced to study the things which you would or otherwise avoid, so your knowledge will be increased by such studying. Now that I was a llama, I should have the freedom to study without being held back in a class. It also meant that anyone with specialized knowledge was free to teach me, so that I could learn as quickly as I wished. One of the earliest things I had to learn was the art of relaxation, without which no real study of metaphysics which can be undertaken. One day, the Lama Minga Donab came into my room where I was studying some books. He looked at me and said, "Lobsang, you are looking quite tense. You will not progress as at peace contemplation unless you relax. I will show you how to do it." He told me to lie down as a start, for although one could relax or sitting or even standing up, it is better to learn by supine. Imagine you've fallen off a cliff, he said. Imagine that you are the ground below, crumpled figure with muscles slack, with limbs bent as they have fallen, with your mouth slightly open, for only then are her cheek muscles at ease. I fidgeted around until I put myself in the position he wanted. Now imagine your arms and legs are full of little people who make you work by pulling on muscles. Tell those little people to leave your feet so that there's no feeling, no movement, no tension there. Let your mind explore your feet to be certain that no muscles are being used. I lay there trying to imagine little people, think of old Zoo wriggling my toes from the side. Oh, I'll be glad to get rid of him. Then do the same with your legs. And the night would soon collapse, yet the brain and mind are given calves. You must have a lot of little people at work, Lobsang. They were hard at this morning when you were jumping. Now give them a rest. March them up towards your head. Are they all out? Are you sure? Feel around with your mind. Make them leave the muscles unattended so that they're slack and flaccid. Suddenly he stopped and pointed. "Look," he said, "you've forgotten someone in your thigh. Little person is keeping a tight muscle in your upper leg. Get him out, Lobsang, get him out." Finally, my legs were relaxed to his satisfaction. "Now do the same with your arms," he said, starting with your fingers. "Make them leave." He passed the wrist. He up past the wrist, march them all to the elbows, to the shoulders. Imagine that you're calling away those little people so that there is no longer any strain or tension of feeling. After I had got so far, said, "Now we come to the body itself. Pretend your body is the lamasery. Think of all the monks inside pulling on muscles to make you work. Tell them to leave, so that they leave the lower part of the body first, then after slacking off all the muscles. Make them drop what you're doing and leave. Make them loosen your muscles, all of your muscles, so that your body is held together merely by the outer covering, so that everything sags and droops and finds its own level. Then your body is relaxed." Apparently, he was satisfied with the stage of my progress, For he continued, the head perhaps is the most important part of your relaxation. Let us see what we can do with it. Look at your mouth. Have a tight muscle at each corner. Ease it off, Lobsang. Ease it off each side. You're not gonna speak or eat, so no tension, please. Your eyes are screwed up. There's no light to trouble them. So lightly close the eyelids just slightly without any tension. Turned away and looked out of the open window. Finest exponent of relaxation is outside sunning herself. You could take a lesson from the way in which a cat relaxes. There's none who can do that. Who can do it better. So Masters, everything what is happening right now is very simple. He's just saying how to do relaxation. It takes quite a lot of time to write this, and it seems difficult when it is read. But with just a little practice, it is a simple matter to relax within a second. The system of relaxation is one which never fails. Those who attend with cares of civilization will do well to practice on these lines. In the mental system which follows. For this latter, I was advised to proceed somewhat differently. Lama Minyo Dondap said, there's little gain in being at ease physically when you're tense mentally. As you lie here physically relaxed, let your mind for a moment dwell on your thoughts. Idly follow those thoughts and see what they are. See how trivial they are. Then stop, permit no more thoughts to follow. Imagine a black square of nothingness with the thoughts trying to jump from one side to the other. At some will jump across. At first, some will jump across. Go after them, bring them back, and make them jump across the black space. Imagine it. Visualize it strongly. And in a very short time, you will see blackness without effort and so enjoy perfect mental and physical relaxation. Here again, it is far more difficult to explain than do. It really is a very simple affair with slight practice, and one must have relaxation. Many people who have never shut off their minds and thought, and they are like the people who are trying to keep going physically day and night. Person who tried to walk without rest for a few days and nights would soon collapse, yet the brain and mind are given no rest. With us, everything was done to train the mind. We were taught judo to a high standard as an exercise in self-control. The Lama who taught us judo could repel and defeat 10 attackers at once. He loved judo and went out of his way to make the subject as interesting as possible. Strange holds may seem savage and cruel to the Western minds, but such an impression would be utterly wrong. As I have already shown, by giving a certain little touch to the neck would make a person unconscious in a fraction of a second before he knew he was losing consciousness. The little pressure paralyzes the mind harmlessly. In Tibet, where there are no anesthetics, we would often use the pressure when extracting a difficult tooth or insetting bones. The patient knew nothing, suffered nothing. It was also used in initiations when the ego is released from the body to do astral traveling. With this training, we were almost immune to falls. So Masters, he's a Lama now and still he's telling about the like relaxation and judo. One moment. Okay. With this training, we're also immune to fall. Part of judo is to know how to land gently. Break falls, it is termed, and is a common exercise for jump uh, for us boys to jump over 10 or 15-foot wall just for fun. Every other day before starting our judo practice, we had to recite the steps of the middle way, the keystones of Buddhism. These are right views, which are views and opinions free from delusions and self-speakings, right aspirations, by which one shall have high and worthy intentions and opinions. Right speech, in which one is kind, considerate, and truthful. Right conduct. This makes one peaceful, honest, and selfless. Right livelihood. To obey this, one must avoid hurting men or animals and must give the latter their rights as beings. Right effort. One must have self-control and undergo constant self-training. In right mindfulness, in having the right thoughts and trying to do what is known to be right. Right rapture. This is pleasure derived from meditating on the realities of life and ourselves. If any of us offended against the steps, we had to lie face down across the main entrance of the temple, so that all who entered had to step over the body. Here we would stay from the first dawn until dark without no movement, no food or drink. So it was considered to be a great disgrace. Now some masters, like these are all of the right, the keystones of Buddhism. These are like all of these. Now I was a Lama, one of the elite, one of the superior ones. It sounded just fine, but there were catches. Before I had to obey the frightening number of 32 rules of priestly conduct. As a Lama, to my horror and dismay, I found that the total was 253. And at Chakpuri, the wise Lama would not break any of those rules. It seemed to me that the world is full of things to learn, and I thought my head would burst. But it was pleasant to sit up on the room and watch the Dalai Lama arrive at the Norbu Linga or Jewel Park just down below. I had to keep hidden when I so watched the precious one, for no one must look down at him. Down below too, but on the other side of the Iron Mountain, I could look on two beautiful parks, the Kati Linga and just across the stream called the Kalingchu, and the Dopa Linga. Linga means park, or at least it is spelling according to the Western style of writing. More to the north, I could gaze upon the western gate, the Pargo Kaling. This great shorten straddled across the road leading from the Drepang past the village of Shove and on to the heart of city, nearer almost at the foot of Chakpuri, was the Khortian commemorating one of our historic heroes, King Khalsa, who lived in the warlike days before Buddhism and came to peace, and peace came to Tibet. Work, we had plenty of that, but we had our compensations, our pleasures as well. It was compensation in full and brimming over to associate with with men like Lama Mingya Dondak, men whose sole thought was peace and help for others. It was payment too to be able to look over this beautiful valley, so green and peopled were with well-loved trees. To see the blue waters meandering through the land of the between the mountain ranges, to see the gleaming chortens and picturesque lamaseries and hermitages perched on inaccessible crags, to look with reverence on the golden domes of Potala so near to us, the shining roofs of Gong Jakong a little further to the east, the comradeship of the others, the rough good fellowship of the lesser monks, and the familiar scent of incense as it wafted around the temples. These things made up our life, and it was a life worth living. Hardship? Yes, there was plenty, but it was worth it. In any community, there are those of little understanding, of little faith, but here Chandpuri, they were indeed in the minority. So masters, all of this is like him, like becoming Krapa, but actually he's becoming a Lama. 1 minute, masters. Herbs and kites. So masters, he told that we'd play kites. Like Rampa Donda said, oh, really, plenty of kites, right? So I think now it's kites. The weeks flew by. There was so much to do, to learn, and to plan. Now I could delve far more deeply into occult matters and receive special trainings. One day in early August, my guide said, "This year we will go to the herb gatherings. You'll gain much useful knowledge of herbs in the natural state, and we will introduce you to the real kite flying." For 3 weeks, everyone was busy. Leather bags had to be made and the old one cleaned. Hens had to be overhauled and animals carefully examined to see that they were able to fit and able to undertake the long trip. Our party was 200 monks, and we would make our base at the old lamasery of Rampa and send out parties every day to search a neighborhood for herbs. At the end of August, we set out amid much shouting and noise. Those who were to remain behind clustered around the ones, envious of the ones going to holiday and adventure. As a llama, I now rode a white horse. A few of us were going to press on a minimum of equipment so that we could have several days at Trayarpa before the others arrived. Our horses were able to travel 15 to 20 miles a day, but yaks rarely exceeded 8 to 10 miles a day. We were lightly loaded and we took the minimum of equipment, preferring to arrive quickly. The yak train was followed more slowly, and each animal carrying the usual 107 70-pound load. So masters, animals are carrying 200 pounds. Pound is I think 0.3 kgs, but still 100 pounds is a lot of kgs. The 27 of us were the advance party were glad to indeed arrive at the Lamasery several days later. The road had been a difficult one, and I, for one, was not at all fond of horse riding. By now, I could stay on a horse even when the horse galloped, but there were more, my prowess ended. Never could I stand on a saddle or as some of the others did. I sank and clung, and it was not graceful. Then at least it was safe. We had been sighted approaching up the mountainside, and the monks who lived there permanently prepared huge quantities of buttered tea, sampa, and vegetables. It was not entirely unselfish for them. They were anxious to have all the news of Lhasa, received the customary gifts which we brought. Up on the flat roofs of the temple building, braziers of incense through dense columns of smoke into the air. Up in the courtyard we rode with most fond energy at the thought of end of the journey. Most of the other lamas had old friends to meet. Everyone seemed to know the Lama Mingyur Burnap. He swept from my side by the welcoming throng, and I thought that once again I was all alone in the world. But after a very few minutes, I heard, Lobsang, Lobsang, where are you? I soon answered, and I knew what was happening. The crowd and open and more or less engulfed me. The guide was talking to an elderly abbot whose turned and said, so this is he? Well, well, well. And so young too. My main concern, as usual, was food. So masters, all he's doing is now he's riding up the mountain. So my main concern, as usual, was food. And without wasting more time, everyone moved in the direction of the refectory where we sat and ate in silence, as if we were still at Chakpuri. There was some doubt as to whether Chakpuri was a branch of Trayarpa or on the other way about. Certainly, both lamaseries were amongst the oldest in Tibet. So, where were we? Trayarpa was formed as having some really valuable manuscripts dealing with herbal cures, and I was going to be able to read them and make all the notes I needed. There was also a report on the first expedition to the Tang Highlands, written by 10 men who did a strange journey. But of greatest interest to me at the present time was the level tableland just near, from which we were going to launch our kites. The land was very strange. Immense peaks were jutted off the continuously rising ground. Flat tableland like terraced gardens, extended from the foot of peaks like broad steps reaching higher and higher. Some of these lower steps were rich in herbs. One form of moss found here was far greater absorptive power than sphagnum. A small plant bearing yellow berries had amazing pain deadening properties. The monks and I boys would gather around these herbs and lay them out to dry. I, as a lama, would now be able to supervise them, but for this trip, the main I would consist mainly of practical instructions by the Lama Mingya Dondap and herb specialists. So masters, let's stop the share here and let's jump into questions and answers. So since so now since Hatel is first on my list, we're going to do Hatel and then Joshua and then so on.
Yeah, Mukul, I do not have any doubt, but you have explained it very well.
So thank you, Hatel. Now Joshua. Not audible, Joshua.
Continue.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Joshua. Nope. Can't hear you, Joshua. I think we'll come back later. Tanisha.
Yeah.
Did you like the session?
Yeah, I loved it a lot. It was a very good story.
Yeah, it's very interesting. What was your favorite part?
I didn't actually have a favorite part. Every part was actually really good.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now ready?
You told the story very well, like always, and you explained it very well, like always. My favorite part, I don't really have a favorite part, but if I really have to, maybe the part when he becomes like a llama. So my favorite.
Okay.
Because now I can be responsible of everything. No.
I think
Not everything.
my favorite part was the first part where they had all of the explanation of the studies.
Yeah, that was interesting too.
Mm-hmm. Now, thanks, Riddhi. Now, Ryan.
Yes.
What was your favorite part and any feedback?
For you, I don't really have any negative feedback. I actually thought you did really well with today's session, so good job on that. My favorite part was, like just like how Riddhi said when he turned into a llama. I also liked that part as well.
I think a lot of people are liking that part.
Yeah, because it's like a second life,
Yeah. I mean,
so you
but
can see what the life of an animal is like.
if I had a choice to become Lobsang Rampa, I might not because I like riding horses and oh no, I don't want to. I'm a person who not good at riding horses. Okay, right
Yeah.
now, Davy. Oh, okay, no, he left. Okay, Joshua. Oh no, I can't hear you. Okay, then rock. I I think Joshua, can you start the recording? So you can stop recording. Uh, I think